r/AskReddit, lawyers and police officers, what is the dumbest reason you've seen someone get arrested? Someone in my town crashed into a telephone pole and took out the power. The road was closed off while things were sorted out. One lady decided she couldn't take the long way home and crashed into the same telephone pole. She was arrested for drunk driving. Drunk on stupidity? There was no internet. What was she supposed to do? Of course, driving into a pole seems only solution. I arrested a guy who continually called 911 asking police to bring him weed and a cheeseburger. He then proceeded to eat the foam padding of my roll bars in the back seat. I've never seen someone trip so bad. Plot twist, you all went to get some weed and cheeseburger right after. Can't let a good idea go to waste. In the 1980s I was a detective in Cape Town. One day while driving in Woodstock we saw a group of people chasing a man, so we assisted. Turned out he was suspected of stealing from a passenger in a third-class train carriage. Those are very crowded with many passengers standing close together. In his pocket he had a pay envelope from a local fish packing place, containing no money, but a piece of carton in which was written, "Haha, lekker jevem, Afrikaans for lol." The people giving chase insisted that he had pickpocketed someone on the train and jumped out at Woodstock station. Long story short, we traced the owner of the pay envelope. His name and employee number were on the envelope, who said that, after being pickpocketed twice before and losing a week's wages, he hid his money in his sock and made a decoy with the top of a pack of 30 cigarettes on which he wrote the Afrikaans taunt. The culprit was convicted of theft of an envelope valued at 15 cents and ended up with a criminal record. Can't recall what the sentence was, unfortunately. I'd love to hear what reason for his conviction he told his fellow inmates. I stole an envelope. I do know the dumbest crime I've ever heard of. My dad's helmet from university. A young man, walking home from a night out, passed a bus depot and decided to take a bus for a spin, help people get home, etc. Upon return to the bus depot, he was arrested on a few charges including drink driving, endangering the public, and a weird form of theft as he returned it without prompting. Following the charges, he was released awaiting trial, likely going to receive a nasty slap on the wrist, some fines, maybe a short prison stay, and a suspension of his driving license. Not long before the trial, he needed a good night out with friends, and he walked home past that same bus depot. It was just too tempting. He served 2 years. You'd think they would have improved security at the bus depot after the first incident. I was on a ride along. Guy gets pulled over, hands his brother's ID to the officer. It is not a good match. Officer asks him when he was born. He gets that one right. Asks him how old he is. He's off by 2 years. He's being put in the car and the officer says, "You're the first guy I've arrested for bad math." When's your birthday? 22nd of February. What year? Every year. Work for a smaller county. Last fall we got a group of people coming me down from a nearby city to rob a hemp farm, thinking it was weed growing along the highway. Several of the crack team of bandits were arrested and lodged. The kicker is it was explained explicitly how dumb it was, that you can't even get high of the stuff, but the very next weekend they came back down and tried to pull it off again. Only this time the farmer was home and ended up holding them all at gunpoint till we arrived. Man, I love me some farmer justice. I'm assuming he was sitting in a rocking chair on the side of the road in the dark holding a shotgun and said something along the lines of, "What you boys up to on my land?" I was a seasonal officer at a beach resort. One day I was stuck in the substation working on a bunch of reports when I hear another seasonal officer and a senior officer get dispatched to a hotel for unknown reasons. 2 hours later, and I'm still doing paperwork. In fairness, I took a break for lunch, and both of the officers come in with arms full of large brown paper evidence bags, like the 2 feet tall ones you out groceries in. They start pulling out the most varied amount of drugs I've seen ever. Something like 2 large vacuum bags of good weed, not the dry shit, 2 pages of LSD tabs, a gallon bag of shrooms and a bunch more. Apparently this 19-year-old had come to the beach to deal. He had paid for a few nights at this hotel. Well, he missed his checkout time and the hotel needed the room, so the housekeeper let herself. She undid the covers and found this buffet of drugs. The kid ended up showing up while the officers were searching his hotel room, and they got him. Impressive haul. This is like the epitome of the only break one rule at a time rule. I think it's the epitome of stupid. If you're going to deal drugs, do it from a controlled environment, and don't leave your stash unattended. Don't head out for a late morning constitutional on checkout day with thousands of monies worth of drugs sitting alone in your room. Not me, but when my husband was arrested. He was out on his boat fishing and forgot his life jacket in the truck. Game warden wrote him a ticket, told him he didn't have to appear in court and to come to the courthouse on the date listed to pay the ticket. Cool. No big deal. The day came for my husband to pay the ticket. He was in the area for work, so he figured he would pop in instead of driving back out there, about 45-minute drive. He went in to pay the ticket, gave it to the girl so she could process it, and she said, "You can't pay this. There is a warrant out for your arrest." My husband was extremely confused and no one would say anything to him about what was going on. A 60-year-old sheriff came over and handcuffed him. While the sheriff was walking him across the road to the jail, he finally explained it to my husband. There was a warrant out because he failed to appear in court. Remember, the game warden said he didn't have to appear in court and even checked on the ticket that he did not have to appear. My husband told the sheriff that, and the sheriff knew. He also knew this particular game warden. According to the sheriff, this was not the first time this had happened. I ended up bailing him out, and he was on probation for a year. This is such bullshit. If the sheriff knew. Doesn't matter if the sheriff knew. He has no power to cancel the warrant. What's bullshit is that he actually got charged. I'm a social worker that works closely with probation, and in most jurisdictions I have worked in they would have just put him on calendar and resolve it then. Not arrested, but I gave someone an unnecessary ticket. I drove past 2 girls on a sidewalk and one was holding a beer can. I backed up and pulled up next to them, but now the beer was gone. I ask the girl where it went, and she denies having a beer. I tell her to get it and dispose of it. She tells me she's 22 anyway. I respond, great, no reason to get in trouble for alcohol, just go get the can and properly dispose of it. She denies it again. Again I tell her to just throw it away. Her friend tells her, just go get it. She still denies ever having a beer. I walk a few feet back to where I saw them and surprise. There's a beer can on the ground. She got an open container ticket at 22 and a warning for littering. The worst part is, after she got the ticket she asks, what if I was holding it for my friend, because she's not 21. I tell her I wouldn't throw my friend under the bus, since she was the one in possession when I saw them, so it wouldn't have mattered. She still didn't seem to grasp that nobody had to get in trouble if she just picked it up. The first dumb part was thinking that denying an obvious fact will work. The second, but here I agree with you partly, slightly less dumb part was not taking the generosity of the cop at face value. Honestly, most cops aren't out to duck with you. And if they were, you wouldn't be able to do anything about it in the moment anyway. We never arrested him, but I investigated a fraud where a guy called our department that issue licenses to captain oil tankers etc. When they told him he didn't have enough evidence of previous sea experience, he literally emailed in a photograph of him sat at his computer forging a sea service testimonial for his last company and asked, "Is this okay?" I was part of our law enforcement unit, and we agreed we needed to ask Parliament to add a new merchant shipping offense for being a total ducking idiot. Not me, but my grandma was a lawyer. She had to defend someone who stole from a store in a city in Hungary around midnight. The only reason they got caught was because they used some matches to light up the place, and that set the fire alarm off. As if that wasn't enough, a few weeks later in court, my grandma tells the judge to look at the kid, how young he was, and that he couldn't have been strong enough to break open the door or carry something outside and steal it. At this point the defendant stands up, points at his muscles and shouts, "Hell yeah, I could." That's basically when my grandma gave up. As far as I know, he got a few months in prison. Don't listen to this hoe. I hit the gym all the ducking time. My sister was a legal assistant for a while when she was in school. She went to a hearing with her lawyer and the judge asked the defendant, "And how much marijuana did you have on you?" To which the defendant responded, "Oh no, Your Honor, it was cocaine." Not entirely sure how that got messed up, but the judge apparently gave the look of, "How ducking stupid are you?" A gram of weed would have been much better than a gram of coke. Ironically, the guy cold just said none, and actually be speaking the truth. Lol.